Welcome to our Microsoft 365 Power Tips webinar. This is a new webinar that we're putting out, so definitely looking forward to seeing how it goes in the real world and get some feedback from you guys at the end. Let's see, that's me. My name is Jeremy Cherney. I'm the founder and president and CEO of Tobin Solutions. We provide IT services and cybersecurity and Microsoft 365 support and customization and migrations and training and all kinds of things with Microsoft 365. We really like this product. There's just so much there. And so when we were putting together this webinar, there's so many ways that this could go as far as power tips. So what I'll be sharing is some of the things that I like, some of the things that I use, some of the things we're seeing other people use. I mean, it's just such a big product and there's so many features and functions. We could probably literally have a different power tip session twice a day for the next year and still not even come close to hitting the number of features and functions that are there. So, along the way, there's going to be some learnings and discoveries for you. I've got the chat box open, so if you've got any questions along the way, feel free to drop them in the chat. And there'll also be time for Q&A at the end. And when this is all over, we'll be sending you out a survey. And we would really love you to complete that survey. Your feedback is really valuable, especially with a new webinar like this. And for your efforts in doing the survey, we will send you a copy of the slide deck as well as a link to the video. I see some names on here. I see a lot of familiar names. I see some that, I don't know some of you that well. And so I don't know if you're using Microsoft 365 yet or not. Maybe you're using parts and pieces of it. So just want to make sure that you guys get an understanding of what it is. Microsoft 365, formerly known as Office 365, is a monthly subscription service from Microsoft. It has different tiers of service. And within each of those tiers of service, there's a different rate. And within that different rate, you get different products and services from Microsoft. It's a cloud solution. So that means that Microsoft hosts and manages all the applications and your data on their servers. They have a 99% plus uptime guarantee. And Tobin Solutions assists with security and support and migration, administration, development, and integration. And I should probably also add on to this list training, because that's why you're here today. So I love this picture of the Swiss Army knife. I mean, there are just so many features and functions inside of Microsoft 365. And just like you can use a butter knife to turn a screw, a screwdriver might be the better tool for it. So as you're listening to some of these things, maybe you're doing something one way and you might want to try a different way. With computers, there's always a few different ways to do something, maybe more than a few, but there's usually just a few best ways to do it. So, see what you come away with today. In the end, just try what you see here, see if it's something that works for you and see what difference it can make. These are some of the tiers of service that Microsoft 365 offers. There's a number of different tiers they have. These are some of the real popular ones. And with each tier, like I said, there's a different price and you get different offerings. Tobin Solutions also provides the subscription service to our clients. So if there's anything you need around that, or you're looking to see what are in some of the tiers that aren't here, there's some things we can look at around that. So, and you're not stuck in a tier with a subscription. You can, if you're in a lower end tier, you can move into an upper end. And if you're an upper end tier, you can move into a lower end one. So they're pretty flexible that way if you're going, especially if you're going on month to month. Microsoft 365 has really been around in one form or another for more than 10 years. I thought this slide was cute with the different logos over time and even the name change. And what I couldn't find and what's even there before that, so before it was Microsoft Office 365 in 2011, if you're a longtime user of it, or maybe you had heard about it, it was actually called Microsoft Business Productivity Online Suite. There's a mouthful, right? BPOS. So I think they scored a win with the new name of Office 365 and now Microsoft 365. If you look at what used to come with BPOS back in the day, you get Microsoft Office, and then they had online Exchange and online SharePoint, and uh, called Microsoft Link, which was their internal communication system, which has since evolved into Microsoft Teams. And for a lot of you, that's probably 80% of what you're using in Microsoft 365 now. You're probably using email, probably using Office. Using Teams maybe. Um, so maybe using some SharePoint for documents and internal intranets for your company. Um, and there's so many other things that have come around since then. So I'm going to touch on a few of the newer ones that I think are pretty cool and useful, as well as some tips on some of the other newer features. But some of the other things I'm going to show you have been around for a very long time. And in some cases, they were new to me in the last year or two, and they might be new to you as well. So, see if they fit, see if they, kind of try it on and see if it's something that works for you. And, along the way, and maybe even after this, if you've got some great tips, you want to share about some features, let me know, because we can always include that in a part two of this webinar in the future. Like I said, there are just literally probably, tens of thousands of features through all of the Microsoft 365 line. And so there's no shortage of ideas and things that can be useful for other people. This is a real simple one, and it's been around for a while. I just like the way they've exposed it in the new Microsoft 365, and it's called pinning. So if you open up Microsoft 365, you open up Word or Excel or PowerPoint on your desktop, or you open it up from the web. If you look, this is a screenshot. You can see these files that are listed here: Tobin Solutions, Office 365 Hidden Gems. And over towards the right, there's a little push pin icon. You click that, and then what that does is that pins it, meaning it sort of becomes like a favorite in your web browser. But if you look over here, you've got these three categories of filters: recent, pinned, and shared with me. So anything you pin will now show up under that pinned category, which is really handy if there's a lot of documents you go to. If you're the person and you're looking at the budget spreadsheet and you're looking at that every day, really pinning that could be a really easy way to get to it. And what's really neat with the pinning is because of the cloud nature, the online nature of Microsoft 365, the pinning syncs across all your different devices. So if you pin it on your desktop and then you go home and you say you got a laptop and you open up Word or PowerPoint and you go to your pinned, as long as you've got those documents stored up in Microsoft 365, you're going to see those there. So it makes it really handy. And I'm going to show you where else that shows up as you go along. So, check out the pinning of that. A lot of people are using Microsoft 365 on the desktop, and they have a full version of a lot of these applications, all accessible through a web browser. And I tell you that for a couple of reasons. One is it's a nice way to try out some of these applications if you don't have them installed. Sometimes, the applications, they have to get updated, or maybe maybe you've got an older desktop version, you haven't upgraded to the desktop newest version yet. Um, you can just go to, https://office.com, log in with your credentials, and you get to use the whole online experiences there. And you may already use that. Maybe you've got a Gmail account or something, and or you're involved in some other activities where they're using the G Suite. And most of the time, you're accessing all of that through a web browser. Microsoft allows you to do the same thing with Microsoft 365. So you can get in and you can see all the files you've got there. You can see any files you have pinned. You can see all the recent documents you worked on, and down the left-hand side, you can see all the different applications, and you can launch those online applications. And what's nifty is being a web browser-based application, any web page, we're all familiar with the ability to make it a favorite or a bookmark. So what I've done across the top here is I've just bookmarked my email and my calendar and my contacts. So real easy to do. You just, go to the go down the left, go find your email, and then bookmark it. And it just makes it, again, really easy to get in. And in some cases, it's a little faster, maybe a little lighter than having the full desktop version installed. Additionally, as Microsoft rolls out new features and functions, sometimes what they've rolled out or how they roll it out might look a little different or only be available in the online version. So, they eventually try and get these things in parity, but sometimes they start off on one platform or another. So if you haven't been working with it on the browser, like I said, give it a try, see what your experience is like for it. Some people really like it better. They think it flows better. In some cases, it's maybe a little less cluttered. Um, so there could be a lot of reasons to do it. So, check it out and see if there's something there for you. So this is via the web browser. Microsoft has also released these all-in-one Office applications. And there's a nice one that they released for Microsoft Windows. So if you go to the Microsoft Windows store from your Windows computer and you search for Office, you'll find this Office all-in-one application. And what's nice is you launch that. Again, it has a similar look and feel to what I just showed you with the browser. Down the left-hand side, you can launch all those applications. You do have to have them fully installed. So this isn't a way of saving, not having to install them or not having to buy the full Microsoft Office as part of the subscription or as a full application. But it will launch those. So it makes it kind of easier to get to. But it also provides this consolidated look of all of the different applications you have. So if you're at the home level, you'll see all the different files you've worked on recently. And here's pinned. Anything you've pinned, you'll see those there. Anything anyone shared with you. Anything that you look for, maybe you've got some people that you work with. And as long as you have rights to their documents, you can also see those here. And then if you click on the left side here and you go, like, say, to PowerPoint, you'll only see the most recent PowerPoint files you've worked on. Or you can create a new file from here. So it's kind of a handy sort of omnibus type application, kind of this umbrella application that lets you see all your data and all your other applications. Also at the top, and it's a little cut off here, is a search box. So you can search, when you search there, it'll search through everything you have in your Microsoft 365 environment. That also exists. I'm going to step back a slide. You've also got that search box in the web browser. So, give that a try. It's really fast. It'll search all your documents, all your emails. It'll search people that you work with. You can even, if you have access to some of their documents by permissions, you'll be able to search those things too. So that search starts to become a real ubiquitous and cornerstone of the Microsoft 365 experience. So yeah, so take a look at this app, and they actually have similar apps like this for Android and iOS. So if you're on an Apple, go to the App Store. If you're on Android, go to the Google Play Store and search for the Office and make sure you get the right one from Microsoft. It's this all-in-one application. So if you're working on something in a document at your office on your desktop, and then you're home and you're on your iPad or your Android phone and you want to open up that application, as long as you've been storing that in Microsoft 365, that'll be one of the first things you see when you open the app, is to be able to access that document, to review it, to edit that file, to maybe email it or save it as a PDF. So it's a really nice way of having access to your data everywhere you're at. And for some of you that might be annoying and you want to unplug, and you always have that option. But we're in a mobile first world, it seems. A lot of us, maybe we're not in the office, we're working from home, or we're trying to juggle life, we want to maybe get a few days off for spring break, or we're trying to be with our kids while they're doing online, or whatever you got going on. Those opportunities to get in and grab a document and work with it. Maybe you got 15 minutes and you want to drop in and do something, so you can get that done and really enjoy your afternoon of maybe you're doing something fun with the family over spring break. You can drop in, get that done, handle it, and then go off and have your fun time. So take a look at these web browser or these Windows or iOS and Android apps, and give them a try. Like I said, I think you'll be pleased with how it organizes the information and makes things easily accessible. And it does require that you move your documents into Microsoft 365 to get the most value from it. If you still got your documents stored on a server at the office, you won't have the same insight or availability of those when you're outside the office. Um, Z Drive is an interesting product. It's not made by Microsoft. It's made by another company. So it's a third-party license you purchase. And we have some people at Tobin using it, and we have some of our clients that really like it. Um, One of the big hurdles for people in moving things from their on-premise, file server into SharePoint and Microsoft 365 is this migration of documents. That's one thing, but they have just, maybe your business, you have a drive that you go to that's maybe it's called your Z drive, or maybe you go to an X drive or an S drive or a P drive or whatever that is. And you may have been using that drive for 20 years or 30 years, literally. And in some cases that could be possible. And There's a whole lot of muscle memory around going to that drive letter. Everyone that works in your office knows to go to that drive letter, and that's where things are. Um, Maybe you've got some documents and you've got links to documents or documentation that references that drive letter. And so there's a lot of muscle memory there. There's a lot of invested time in people knowing about that. And so that moving things to SharePoint, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, all kind of get stored in the same place in the background in Microsoft. There's a lot of training that goes on for people. There's a lot of kind of learning this. And, some people, they're busy. They're trying to get other things done. They don't want to make that time to train and learn something new. Sometimes it's the business owner that doesn't want to do that because they're busy and they just like things the way they are. And then there is something you get out of moving those documents up to Microsoft 365. So by doing a one-time project of migrating those documents to SharePoint, if you're not interested in relearning how to use SharePoint or learning how to do it that way because it works a little bit differently, and you just want to maintain that familiar drive letter that you're using, you can add on this Z Drive application. It's a third party, not designed by Microsoft, but it works great. So, if that's something you're interested in, we can talk offline and we can show you how to get that and install that. There's a little bit of geeky configuration that goes on behind the scenes. But once you've migrated your documents to SharePoint, we can then run the Z Drive application. And now what used to be your main drive letter or even your personal drive letter that you had on your server, maybe you had a S drive that was shared by everybody and you had your U drive that was personal. We can move all of that up into SharePoint, into Microsoft. You get the full benefit of a decentralized mobile first experience. But then you fire up your laptop and then you launch the Z Drive application, and then you go to your familiar Windows Explorer and you'll see your S drive or your P drive or whatever it is, and all your files will be accessible just the way you used them before. So it's a really great utility. We've got a lot of clients that have wanted to move, and that training, that rework, that relearning, that pain in the rear of learning something new, just was completely. Now it was all available now because they were using Z drives. They didn't have to go through all of that. So this is really a great tip if you've been thinking about moving some things to SharePoint and didn't want to go through that pain. So, check out Z Drive. Like I said, it'll save, with a lot of IT projects out there, there's that kind of initial work, and people often sort of miss the boat in terms of budgeting for that time and training. And that can be expensive, and it takes time. This gets away from a lot of that time and expense of the training by using Z Drive. So if moving to SharePoint and that pain of learning something new has been in your way, talk to us and we can help you get moving with Z Drive. Microsoft Lists is I kind of a big smile on my face because I'm really excited about this one. It is a newer product by Microsoft. It's built on some older technology. So you've all heard of Microsoft SharePoint probably, and Microsoft SharePoint has this ability to create what are called lists, and they're handy, right? It's a little mini database. You can go in and create some fields and create a list for whatever it is you want. And what they did was they added this lists front end to what you were doing in SharePoint. And in some cases, you don't even know anything about SharePoint anymore. Maybe you haven't put a list in. You can now do that through the list application. You could also take an existing SharePoint list or even something else you've got. Maybe you've got an Excel file that you all use. And a lot of you go out there and you use Excel really as kind of a mini database, right? Sort of a one table database where you've got your columns across the top and your different lines in the spreadsheet that represent, essentially what's a database. You can take all of that and you can put that into Microsoft Lists. It's a web-based application, and they also have apps for your smartphones and tablets. So this is really cool. So if you've got, let's say you've got an existing spreadsheet, maybe it's I don't know, we'll call it a sales lead spreadsheet. And anytime you get a new lead, you put it into the spreadsheet for somebody to follow up on. Well, now you can drop it into, you can convert that spreadsheet into Microsoft Lists. You can just use the plus sign, add a new entry in there, drop it in. It even has a kind of a grid style entry like you do in a spreadsheet, because some people like the flow of how you easily can move around a spreadsheet. You can do that with lists. You can enter your data, but now it's fully mobile and it looks a little nicer, right? You're not trying to kind of zoom in on a little spreadsheet. You can actually use this lists application and you can make it look nicer. You can use things like, instead of having a field, is this in progress or not, you can change the color of it easier to show and expose and augment what's in your list, what's in your spreadsheet by using lists, so it looks a little nicer. You got full mobility with it now, and there's some really cool things you can do with automation and workflow. And what I mean by that is, as you move things into the Microsoft 365 world, there's some kind of easy or not as difficult kind of customization you can do. So for example, a great workflow you could do would be, let's say you're the person who's gathering the sales leads in our sales example. And so you can type it in and you can put the lead in, who to call and the phone number and what the opportunity is. And then maybe, you have a little drop down list you create of your 5 salespeople, and which one is going to get this lead, right? Kind of a common type of thing someone might put together. But then what do you do with that? Either the salesperson is going to have to go in and look at the list periodically, or you might go email them to say, hey, I added a new lead for you in the lead spreadsheet. With the workflow and automation, you can actually say, as soon as I add a new item to my list, go do something, like go email the person who that item is assigned to, and it does it for you automatically. I mean, isn't that cool? So it's these built-in automations, and you can get really neat with the workflow. I mean, that's just a real simple one, but you can add multiple workflows. You can chain workflows together. You can add some custom programming behind it if the workflow isn't doing exactly what you need. So there's some really neat things you can do with that. So check out Microsoft Lists. If you're one of those people that uses that spreadsheet, and it could be anything. It could be maybe it's a phone list and you've got a spreadsheet of your top customers, or it's an internal spreadsheet you keep of your employees and their phone numbers and mobile numbers, right? And now people are all working remotely for whatever reason, maybe. You can now take that spreadsheet of that phone list and just make it so easy to put it on there. You can have personal lists that are only for you, and you can share lists inside of your organization. And like I said, they become fully mobile once you do that. So take a look at Microsoft Lists. I think you'll be impressed what it can do. You just go to the, either launch the application or go to the web where I showed you, go to office.com and launch lists. And from there, you'll see how to create a list, and it'll walk you through a lot of what's there. And if you have a more challenging type of list you want to do it, or you just want some help, or you just want someone to do it for you, you can always give us a call on that. So yeah, check out Microsoft Lists. I think you'll be very impressed with what it can do. Bookings is another item that Microsoft has added. It's kind of an evolution of a product they have. Bookings, you may have seen Bookings before, or maybe you've seen it for other competing type products, something called Calendly. that works with Outlook, and there's a few others that are out there. Um, excuse me. What why do those products exist is to help you schedule something, right? You've got this thing, you're trying to schedule a meeting with your team, which is a little easier to do when you can see everyone's calendar. Maybe you're trying to schedule an appointment with a client, and you kind of do that dance, right? Okay, you tell me some days that you're available, I'll tell you some days and times I'm available, and then we'll meet in the middle and try and figure out which ones are working. And then you then have to do that a couple times. Nope, that doesn't work. Pick this one, right? And then finally you get it, and then you set up the appointment. Um, what Bookings allows you to do is you can expose your calendar or pieces of your calendar to this Bookings component. And then what you do is you send a link to your bookings to your client, and they'll get an email that says, Jeremy Cherney would like to schedule a meeting with you. I'm looking forward to it. Pick up, hit the button, and you can see some spots on Jeremy's calendar where that'll be available. And then you pick the one that works for you, and then you click book, and then it's automatically blocked out of my calendar, so no one else can book out that time. And it just saved all that back and forth. And there's some neat things you can do with bookings in the background where you can, for yourself, hey, maybe I only want to meet with customers at certain times of the day or week. I want to, don't double book me, things like that you'd want to program in, you can do. And it's all built into Microsoft 365. And it even integrates with Microsoft Teams. So if you want to use Microsoft Teams, hopefully you're starting to use that for uh, online conference calls with your team and maybe with some clients, because you can do that. You can integrate that as well, so you can easily schedule a Teams meeting with somebody. And there's even a way they can go back in and cancel the appointment, or hey, I got to reschedule because something, snow day, can't meet you, whatever that might be going on. And it's all built in. I mean, how great is that? So, it allows you to spend less time dealing that scheduling and more time actually meeting with customers. And it just moves a lot faster too. And, if any of you are in sales or dealing with a customer problem, you want to get that appointment booked as quickly as possible, right? So you can have that conversation about your new service or selling something or dealing with an issue. You want to be able to have that done as quickly as possible. So this just makes that really fast work. And if you're someone like me, that whole dance back and forth of scheduling appointments, that for me, that's kind of a pain in the butt. I don't like that. I know it's got to be done, but I usually delay on that. Oh, I got to look at my calendar and I got to go do this and pick. And I'll get to it later, right? And all that does is delay the process, delay the meeting. So yeah, so check out Bookings. I think you'll like what that is. This is an old item that Microsoft has had. I actually just, I don't know if I knew about it and forgot or just ran across it in the last year. I found this really handy. It's called PowerPoint Presenting Online. So if you do any PowerPoint presentations, long ones, small ones, whatever they are, I'm doing one right now, and I'm doing this inside of Zoom and sharing my screen. What I've been doing for some clients, and they've really liked this, is I do what's called the Present Online feature. So if you have, you open up Microsoft 365 and you go into your PowerPoint and you create your PowerPoint, and there's that option to present, right? And usually you present and it brings it up in a window. There's a button that says Present Online. And when you do Present Online, you'll get this window that I'm showing you. And you'll have the ability, you can check that, enable the remote viewer to download the presentation if you want. If you don't want them to get a copy of the presentation, you don't need to. You click connect, you'll then get a link, a web link that you can copy and paste it into an email, or you can paste it into a, the online in the chat if you're using Teams or Zoom or something else. They click on that, they'll then get a separate window showing the presentation. And as you advance forward or backward in your presentation, it'll actually switch for them as well in real time. So it's very quick. And so for some people, it's a nicer experience than, sometimes it looks a little nicer than, trying to squeeze it in inside of a Zoom or Teams meeting window. Uh, it allows you, if you're presenting in video, to have your full face on one screen and presentation on another screen if they've got two screens that they're working with. I think this is great for sales presentations. Maybe you're calling somebody up, you're cold calling, or someone is calling you based on something you had on your website, and you got a conversation going with them, and you're like, hey, do you have 5 minutes? I've got a really quick PowerPoint I'd like to walk you through on this and why I think this would be a value for you. And they're like, sure, I got 5 minutes, right? All you have to do is quickly present online, send them that email with the web link, and you're in business, right? And hopefully winning more business through this. So I think it's really cool for sales presentations. You might find other places where it's of value. Um, Maybe someone doesn't have Zoom, or maybe they just have email and you're on a phone call with them. This is another great way of showing them the presentation. Maybe they're in a place where all they have is a phone and they don't have great internet, or their internet's choppy and the video cuts out. And we've all been that probably more than enough than we care to in the last year. Um, this is a great way to get around that of, hey, let me show you this presentation. Let me present to you, and you don't have to be in Zoom or Teams. You can just be on the phone with me. So, check it out. I think it's pretty cool. It's very simple to use. And then when you're done with your presentation, you just hit the end presentation button. That'll end it for them. It ends it for you. And then you're done. So give that a try. I think you'll like that. There was a question on the Bookings app that someone asked. Thanks for the question. You're asking if they have to have the app. They don't need to have the app. So that's something you work on your side. What they're going to get is an email with a link to the web where they will do that. So everything's web-based for them on their side to go in and book those appointments with you. They don't need an app. Great question. Thanks again. So we just got a few more tips left. So it looks like we'll be ending a little bit early, maybe, depending on the tips here. There's some great tips here I want to show you. I just want, try these out, and some are really critical. First of all, from a security standpoint, right? Tobin is very security focused. We have a security strong focus on everything we do. If we haven't already talked to you, or your IT provider hasn't talked to you about protecting your Microsoft 365 environment by turning on multi-factor authentication, where you use that app or you get that 6-digit code that comes to your phone when you log in, please get that done today. And in fact, turn that on, not only in Microsoft 365, turn that on everywhere in your world. It is some of the best security you can put on your system, especially if you're using an Authenticator app. But even if you haven't got that and you're just using the 6 digits going to your phone, it's way better than not having it at all. We've had some clients that didn't do it because it's an extra step and it is some change and it's a little extra work. And in the end, unfortunately, got bit by somebody that phished their email and password and was able to log into their account and do things. So please, if you haven't done that already, get that done. Secure your accounts with multi-factor authentication. It's some of the best security you can have. And even if your password gets away from you somehow, hopefully your phone isn't getting away from you and they won't be able to get into your system. So please do that. I know there's some people out there that are still, maybe they're using Teams at work and they're chatting back and forth, but when they're outside the office and they're on their phone, they're still using, iMessage or their built-in Google Messenger or any of that stuff, or just, basic texting back and forth. And they do that even if they're talking to the same people. Install Microsoft Teams on your phone and that chat follows you everywhere. So if you're chatting on your phone in Microsoft Teams with somebody in your office, or even a guest, because you can invite guests to a Teams chat, you can do it from your phone, from your tablet, and when you're back at your desktop or your laptop, that whole chat history is right there. You just continue on right from where you were, or vice versa. Maybe you're at work and you're on your computer and you've got Teams up and you're chatting back and forth, and now you got to hit the road. Just launch Teams on your phone. You're logged into your account. All of that information follows you. You can continue on with that chat right from Microsoft Teams. So try not to be in those both worlds. The other benefit of that is if you have somebody that loses their phone or isn't backing up their messages, their text messages, you're going to lose that information. or if they leave your company, you're going to lose that information. And if you've got all that in Teams and you keep all those chatting conversations there, now you have all that information under your control. At the top of Microsoft Teams, there is a search box. There's a little search item. If you haven't really used that much, it's really handy. It's fast, really almost lightning fast, it seems. You start typing in something in that search box, um, it's going to search everything you've got in Teams. It searches not only the chats you have, so you can get right to that chat, where was that conversation? It searches all the documents you have in Microsoft 365, and it searches what people are up to in your organization and what documents they might be working on, as long as you have permissions to see those. So real handy. We're finding that more and more people are just living in Microsoft Teams all day long. It's where they chat, it's where they access their documents, it's where they access certain applications. Um, so, um, that search box becomes really handy. So if you haven't used that, so you type it in, and you may not you may not see exactly what you're looking for right away, because if you search on the left side, you'll see 3 filtered categories that'll say, I think it says messages and people, and then files. And so you have to click each one of those to then drill into the filter. But if you, let's say you're searching on your files that you've got stored in Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive, you'll see all those files listed there and be able to jump right to those, which is really handy. Something else that some people do, they're kind of in that hybrid world where they've got documents on their internal file server, and then they've got maybe some documents, or they're just they're using Microsoft Exchange Online for Outlook and email and all of that, and they haven't moved their files into there. One of the benefits beyond the mobility and all the other things I've shared with you of moving files into SharePoint and OneDrive and Teams is when those documents are stored there, you now have the ability to have that document opened by multiple people. Microsoft calls that co-authoring. So instead of what you traditionally get on a file server where you open it up and it says, this is read-only, you can't get into it, co-authoring allows multiple people to be in it at the same time. So you can, if you're editing a document in real time, they'll be able to see it in real time because they'll see those document changes happen. If they go in and edit a piece of it, you'll see it. And at the top of, let's say it's a Microsoft Word document, at the top, you'll see all the people who are in the document at the same time. You can track their edits and just see what they're doing. So this co-authoring is really handy, especially around collaboration, any meetings you're in, or meeting planning you're doing with somebody else. Super handy. So you haven't done that yet, give it a try, because I think the features of it work really great. Excuse me. Last big tip. So a lot of us are using Outlook. We're either using Outlook, the full desktop application, maybe you're using Outlook through the web, or maybe you'll start using Outlook through the web like I just showed you in one of the previous tips. There's that thing where the email goes back and forth, right? You're emailing somebody and you're saying, hey, what about this? And they're like, hey, what about that? And you're going back and forth. And sometimes like, hey, you know what? Great, let's turn this into a meeting, because either that's the next action step inside of the email chain, or maybe the email is just not working back and forth. You're like, hey, let's just meet about this. Let's do that. So when you're in Outlook, either the full Outlook application or in the web version, and there's a couple different places this exists. If you're in Outlook and you look in that message that you're going back and forth in, and you've got the 3 little dots, the ellipsis, you click that. Or if you're in the web and you click reply, there's a reply with. You can say right there, you can say meeting or reply with meeting. And when you do that, it'll take the whole text chain you just had in your email, it'll drop it into a calendar appointment, and with those people that are part of that chain you're in, and set up a meeting right from there. So a super handy quick tip to get a meeting going. Additionally, sometimes you're in that thing, you're like, hey, can we just talk about this real quick? So again, if you're a Teams user and you've got Teams set up where you're using Teams either for chatting or for just the quick, hey, can we talk about this? And you click the phone button and you're doing a voice or video chat with somebody on Teams. When you're in there, um, when you're in Outlook, if you hover over their name, right, it'll show you their name. And this is especially if it's somebody that's an inside person. But even when it's this limited feature for if they're an outside person, you hover over their name and it brings up a little pop-up where you've got an envelope, which means you can click a new email for them, or you've got the calling button or the chat button. So right from there, you could say, I want to chat in real time about this. I don't want to go email back and forth anymore. Let's have a chat conversation because sometimes that's a nicer cadence. Or it's like, hey, can we just talk about this? You click the phone and right away you reach them right from inside that email. So you have to then go to now I got to launch Teams and now I got to go here and find their name and all that. So it's that integration that Microsoft has that's tight between their different programs, and they just keep improving that. Sometimes they add new features, sometimes they move it around a little bit. But those are some 5 real quick tips you can start using now, so invite you to start using those. So it looks like we had a room for a few more tips here, given how quickly this went. Don't always know how fast this is going to go based on questions and that. Um, so I'm going to open it up here for some Q&A if there's any other questions about this or anything else. So I just, first of all, before I do that, I just want to first thank you for being here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to learn some new things and hopefully rock your world and maybe rock the world of some of the people you work with. Share these tips along the way. We have a mailing list where we send out newsletters where you hear about future webinars as well as other security tips and other things we do. So if you're not already on that, you can text Tobin to 22828 and you'll get on the mailing list. We're also on social media, of course, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where we post things. If you think this has been useful and you want to maybe have one directly to your business for other people in your organization about this topic or any of our other prior topics, or maybe some other topic you think would be useful, let us know. If you are in a Kiwanis group or your church group or your business group or whatever that is, maybe you're on a board of directors for a nonprofit. If you are, thanks for doing that, or you're volunteering in a nonprofit, thanks for doing that. And if you think this would be a useful conversation for them, whether it's about this or security or anything else, doing that, you can let me know. We're happy to do those kinds of webinars. We also have a podcast called Security Strong. So please go give a listen to it at securitystrongpodcast.com. If you want to reach out direct to me, you've got my phone number there, as well as my email address and our website. And now I'll open it up to Q&A. And if there's anything you want to ask, just feel free to unmute yourself. You can do that. I'm seeing another question. Sue, thanks for this question. You're asking about PowerPoint and you could prevent others from downloading it. So by default, it does not allow someone else to download the PowerPoint. When you go and click that link, so it's actually, I've got the window up here, so I'll show you that. This checkbox, if by default it's unchecked, if so, by default they won't be allowed to download it. If you do check that, then they will be allowed to download it. So you get the choice of what you want to do. We can't do anything if they decide to record the screen or do some of those other tricks, take screenshots and that. So if it's something highly secure, top secret kind of thing, confidential something, just know that that can still happen with any kind of a device somewhere that someone else is seeing something you've got, but that will prevent you from doing that. All right, any other questions? Like I said, feel free just to unmute or drop it in the chat. There will be a recording that you'll be able to get if you, when you complete the survey. We'll send you a link to that. And I'm seeing some thanks. You are so very welcome. Thanks for being here. Appreciate your time. And again, like I said, this is a newer webinar. So when you get that survey, let us know. Did this work for you? Did it not? Was it too in-depth? Was it not in-depth enough? Uh, you know, more tips, more quick tips,